Faces. This is mine, Rembrandt. You see a lot in a face. At least I do. If I were alive today, I'd be 400 years old. People said that I was the best portrait painter ever. They still say the faces I painted told the story of people's lives. This is the story of mine. Hey, can you see me? Here I am in the red hat. Here, by the table. My name's Rembrandt, and I'm only 8 years old. We live in Leiden, in Holland. Holland is a very flat country, and there's water everywhere. There's a river right outside our window, can you see? That man coming through the door with a heavy sack on his shoulder is my father. He is a miller. He has a windmill that grinds corn, and over here next to me is my mother. She comes from a baker's family, so her bread tastes delicious. I've got 8 brothers and sisters, so you can imagine how much noise we all make. Out of all the children, I think my parents thought I was the cleverest, because when I was just 7, they sent me to a Latin school, a special place for brainy boys. I had to swat away with lots of school books instead of playing outside with my friends.
Rembrandt! Hey, Rembrandt!
For as long as I can remember, what I liked doing best was drawing and painting. So I asked my dad if, instead of learning Latin, I could go to a painting school instead. He must have thought I could become an artist one day because, amazingly, he agreed. I was so excited. I was going to learn how to paint from Peter Lastman, an important Dutch artist in Holland. What do you use to make a painting? Paint? Brushes? Color? Well, yes. But what's your painting of? Light and shadow. This is one of the things Peter Lastman taught me. How to use brightness and darkness in my pictures. It's called chiaroscuro. And if you look at my stuff, I don't use much bright color at all. After a while, I go back home and set up my own school. Only 18, mind you. A bit young for a teacher, but it's a good idea. After all, I love painting, and I am especially good at it. And, well, I want to start earning some money. People had already heard about me in my small town, so when I opened my doors, what a surprise! There is a big queue of people who want to learn from me. Shortly afterwards, I had a big stroke of luck. One day, a very smart Englishman, who'd heard all about me, came from King Charles in England to visit me in Holland. He paid me a lot of money for my paintings and sailed back to England. Oh, every time I think of the royal messenger handing over my paintings to the King of England. Oh. Well, by now, more and more people were beginning to know my name, and I was getting busier and busier. To make more money, I decided to move to Amsterdam, the biggest and richest city in Holland, to find work. A wealthy art dealer, Mr. Aulenberg, invited me to stay with him. But I didn't see the comfortable furniture, the expensive antiques, the soft carpets. The only thing I could see was the face of his niece, Saskia, who I noticed immediately. But did she see a royal painter or a miller's son? And then one day, I was asked to paint a very unusual picture. An important doctor wanted me to show him and his group of medical students while he was teaching a lesson. Not in a normal classroom, mind you, but whilst they were in the middle of cutting open a body. Ugh. I loved painting the expressions on those faces. Some are glued to their teacher, Dr. Tulp, and others are fascinated by what he's showing them. He's cut open the arm and hand of a dead man and is showing the doctors the muscles that make hands work. Back then, doctors didn't know that much about our bodies, and the best way to find out more was to cut them open and look inside. I learned a thing or two myself. And do you remember what I learned about painting? Just using light and dark? Well, if you stand back, You can see this picture is just made up of golden patches of light and dark patches of shadow. No bright colours at all, not even red blood. My wedding day. While I was living at Mr. Aulenberg's house, I got to know Saskia, and I fell head over heels in love. Her father was a town mayor, and her family were very smart. I wonder if they were pleased that she was marrying an artist, even a hard-working one. My father was only a miller after all, but I needn't have worried. I was making loads of money. That key is the key to our gigantic new house. It was in the best part of Amsterdam, and it was way too expensive, but who cares? I had a lovely new house, I had a gorgeous young wife, and I was rich. Tell me something. When you get sweets, do you scoff them all at once? Or do you just take one and save the rest for another day? Well, I am a scoffer. I do what I like, I spend what I like, I never save anything for later. Look at me. First, I bought that giant house, and then I went mad in the shops, and here it is, all arriving now. Lovely. Loads of stuff. Sculptures, rugs, candlesticks, helmets, furniture, carpets, pots, pictures, and of course, jewellery for my lovely Saskia.
Rembrandt, you are a sweetie.
This is a painting I did of Saskia and me when we were young, rich, in love with each other, and having great fun. We had no worries. What a good time that was. It was around then that I was asked to do an important guild painting. What's that, you ask? Well, I'll tell you, since you're so polite. Well, have you ever had a school photograph? You know, when a photographer takes a picture of everyone in your class with your teacher. Well, a guild painting is the same as a school photo, except it's for grown-ups.
Hey everybody. 1, 2, 3.
And remember, there weren't any cameras in those days, so people had to use painting and drawing instead. There was a little band of soldiers in Amsterdam whose job it was to protect the city. Now, I was asked by their captain, the one in black and red, to paint a picture of all his men. Most guild paintings or class photos are really boring. Just a group of men standing in a row. But I thought, what a great idea. Mine won't be boring. It will be action-packed and exciting. And I set to work. Now, getting ready for a picture this big and important took a lot of careful preparation. We artists paint onto thick cotton material called canvas, and not onto paper. Canvas is also used for ship's sails, chair covers, and sacks. The canvas has to be tied with string very, very tightly onto a wooden frame. Then we paint a rough copy of the picture in greyish, watery paint, in case we make mistakes. The paint has to be freshly mixed every day. It's like milk. It doesn't stay good for long. I had to fit more than 34 people into this painting. Now, how did I know who to put at the front, or squashed into the back row, or peeking out of the side? The way it was done was by how much money they paid. The more money you paid, the more important you were, the bigger you came out in the painting, and the better your face could be seen. They all wanted to be right at the front, of course, and slap bang in the middle. And here they all are, fighting for the best place. What a scrum! Ho, ho! Well, this is it. My most famous picture. It's known as the Night Watch. It's gigantic. Probably about as big as the floor of your bedroom. And there's lots going on. See the little girl? What's she doing there? Well, she is like the lucky mascot for the men. And look at the captain in the middle. Of course, he bought the best position. He's just given his soldiers the order to march. His lieutenant is next to him in the yellow, and all the soldiers with their guns are getting ready to go. Standing in front of this painting, you feel you'd better get out of the way, quick. The night watch may have been a big success, but at the same time, some very sad things had happened at home. 3 of our children had died when they were still babies. That happened a lot in my day. The doctors just didn't know how to make you better. It wasn't their fault. We had one son who did survive, called Titus. But just after I finished the night watch, my dearest Saskia became seriously ill, and the doctor couldn't save her. I was heartbroken. Titus was still a tiny boy. At home in my big house, I found that, like most men of my time, I wasn't very good at housekeeping or tidying up or doing the washing. And I needed someone who could be a mother to little Titus. So I took on a housekeeper, Hendrikia, to help me. She took good care of us both. She organized my work, and as time passed, well, it seemed natural. But I'd borrowed a lot of money to buy my lovely things, and I couldn't pay it back. So in the end, it all had to be sold and taken away. We had to move to a much smaller house.
Who'll give me a fiver for Rembrandt's pants?
Through good times and bad times, one thing remained the same. I always painted. But my style of painting wasn't always everyone's first choice. The problem is that I'm honest. I paint people the way they really look, warts and all. And if you put my paintings next to another artist's, you might prefer the beautiful one to the honest one. I mean, look. I was always honest with myself. This is me, by me, near the end of my life. It's not very beautiful, is it? It's not very flattering. But it is truthful. And that's why my paintings are still so alive today, 400 years after I was born. Well, here I am, Rembrandt. I'm 63 years old, and when I look back over my life, I've been in the company of kings, and I've been alone. I've been rich, very rich, and I've lost everything, and been poor. I've been happy, and I've been very sad. And in all of my life, I've put my heart and my soul into pictures.